And a lot of times as we look at things, there's so many different complex elements, and I've been always one that believes you want to break it down into some really simple steps for us to achieve the ability to age well. So, with that said, today, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on aging well, navigating the next normal. And why do I say it's the next normal? Well, the reality is that many people haven't aged well, and what we do moving forward can have a short and a long-term impact on our overall health and well-being. What we're going to do today is we're just going to talk about two simple things. We're going to talk about, how to gain insights into why aging well is the next normal. And I think what we're experiencing right now with COVID-19 is certainly highlighting the desire for us to all age well, given social isolation, given, for many, given the loss of function for some, the challenge to cognitive abilities, mental health issues, addiction. My mother's in a community that has 70 cases of COVID-19, so I'm experiencing this firsthand. So, what we'll talk about is our desire to not experience that and to move forward and to actually age well, not just now, but also into the future, and how that's going to disrupt things and change the way we go about things and how we will actually adjust to that at a community level and at an individual level. So let's just set the stage if we can. Unfortunately, one of the things that we face day in, day out with society is what is the perception of aging, and not getting older, but aging. And the simple question the scientists have looked at to address that over the years has been, can we live better longer? It's a simple question, isn't it? The answer is a lot more complex. But what we do know today is, matter of fact, this research study just came out on September 4th, only a few days ago, that shows that men and women ages 75 to 80 have better muscle strength, walking speed, reaction time, a multitude of different abilities than 30 years ago. And I think about, 30 years ago, what was I then, 30? And, looked at my dad's hand when he was 60 years of age, which is where I am now. And I remember thinking, my goodness, my dad is old. Now I look at my hands and, my kids, and if they were to call me that, I would be going, you got to be joking. I'm still engaged and, wanting to be out there. So, what has changed is the science and our ability to stay healthier longer. So if you have children and they're about to turn the age of 50, we know as an example that a 50-year-old woman today can live 14 years longer and a man 12.2 years longer than the average life expectancy if they just simply did these 5 things. 5 simple things. Never smoked, exercise 30 minutes a day, moderate intensity to high intensity. That just means getting your breath up, so that you are a little bit out of breath, but you're actually having a good workout. Having a normal BMI or body weight, eating a healthy diet. Our definition of healthy diet is all relative to each of us. And consuming a moderate level of alcohol. That's 1 drink a day for women, 2 for men. What percentage of the population do you think has been achieving this? Well, I hate to say it, but it's 8%. A very small percent of the population has been able to actually achieve these simple steps to living longer and better. So we have a lot of work to do, even though many of us know exactly what to do. Sometimes we just simply need a simple reminder. My father passed away 2 years ago, and I was curious at the time, you know, how his longevity was compared to others. So I went and I looked, and he was born in 1933, and he was 85 years of age. And what I saw was that men at that age had exceeded their life expectancy by 23.3 years and women by 19.9 years. So, you know, if we are not planning to live longer and longer, we're missing the boat. Given the averages, my dad would have been expected to live another, 6 years. Well, the reality is we have all this opportunity in front of us. How do we take advantage of that? And that's really the main finding that all of this research over the last 30, 40 years has really shown. And that is that we have much greater human potential than we ever thought. All we have to do is to reach out, realize it, embrace it, and discover it. Unfortunately, one of our greatest enemies sometimes is ourself. No, I can't do that. I hear it with my mother at the age of 89. I can't do that. I'm getting older. Yes, you're getting older, but we do know that you can still get stronger. You can still walk faster. You can still be engaged in society no matter how old you are. And that's what the science shows. That's not Colin's opinion. That's what the science shows. So if we embrace this, how would this change our life? Well, significantly. And that's why the greatest barrier to creating a better, longer life is how we actually currently conceived old age, according to Dr. Joseph Coughlin, the director at MIT. Some of you may have seen the MIT technology review a few months ago where it said old age is over if you want it to be. And what they meant by that was simply that the science shows that we have this potential. The question is whether we tap into that potential or not. You may or may not be familiar with a gentleman by the name of Fajut Singh. Fajut Singh completed the Toronto Marathon at the age of 100. 100. You look at all the National Senior Games athletes. Now, many of you may not be going out running a marathon, but what his accomplishment showed was that we have this potential to do that, and then we just need to embrace that. That's why you see people like Sarah Harper at Oxford University now saying that people in their 70s, 80s, and later should be classified as active adults as opposed to old adults until we lose our abilities. Because if we can still maintain our functional abilities, we are able to live life the way we would like to live it. Yes, we all have aches and pains, rotator cuff, bum knees, the list goes on from different sports, but that doesn't stop us. We just simply have to adapt to things. So what happens when 85% of the population actually no longer see themselves as old? Remember, I'm not talking about aging. We're all getting older, but most people don't see themselves as old. Even my 108-year-old grandmother talks about those old people. She doesn't see herself as old. So when our mindset and our physical capabilities are in sync and we move forward, we shatter the status quo. The question for everyone, including organizations as well as individuals, is are we embracing that ability or not? So what happens is that this new normal is helping us to attain things that we used to think that were unattainable. You think 30 years ago, would we have even fathomed that a 100-year-old would run the marathon, that there would be all these people in the National Senior Games, that many people would be doing adventure travel? Our perception 30 years ago is that you would sit in the front porch, have a smoke, because back, even longer, further back, the doctors were saying, that you could smoke a Camel cigarette, it was good for you. So the science has changed, but, so has our lifestyle. And now what we're seeing is the ability or the opportunity to fulfill, this new promise from science. That is why we have seen the definition of healthy aging shift. The World Health Organization looks at healthy aging differently today than it used to. Today, it is about maintaining our functional abilities. And why is that? Because it used to be about the absence of disease, but today, most of us are managing diseases relatively well, whether it's diabetes, whether it's heart disease, whether it's a cancer. Today, we are managing these diseases. But if you lose the ability to get up out of your chair, things change. Matter of fact, the most important thing I believe as we look towards what our next stage in life is keeping our legs strong, because if you can't stand up and you can't get up out of a chair, you can't get up out of a bed, things do change. That's not saying that, life comes to an end. Far from it. There are a lot of different opportunities, but, many of the things that we have been promised all of our life shift in the way we're able to accomplish those. So what do most Americans think healthy aging is? And it's just that, being able to do the things you want to be able to do. That's all that we're talking about, is how to keep doing the things you want to be able to do, when you want to do them, and with who you want to do them. Problem is that this new thinking, because it is relatively new in the big picture, is actually challenged when we keep thinking through dated perceptions of what aging is. And many doctors out there still have a dated perception. Media, still dated perceptions. Even some scientists, still dated perceptions. So in the way of all of this is ageism. Now we add to that COVID-19, and we have a challenge. Our challenge is this. This is my mother, Bridget Milner. She has been in lockdown now for, 5 months? And I have seen the impact that social isolation has had on her. What has happened to her is what has happened to many people, and that is that we have seen her strength actually go downhill because she's sitting all day. She's watching TV. She isn't able to get out. She's speaking on the computer. So, it's in all of our best interest to keep our abilities up. Even just doing this, a few times a day, 10 repetitions to keep your leg strength up. Very simple things to try and manage that you don't lose your functional abilities. But what else has happened to her is like what is happening to most of us out there right now, and that is that 56% of us feel more isolated than we did 2 years ago. Well, no kidding. But the reality is, it's not what the issue is, it's how we address that issue. How do we actually change that? And to be frank, most of us, 50 plus, 60 plus, are actually managing all of what is occurring right now better than the younger population. But we're still struggling. So what do we do as we move forward? Okay, so 39% of us are managing it very well, according to research that just came out from AgeWave. Somewhat well is about 56%, not well, 5%. And you think about our kids, they've never gone through anything that, for the most part, has been really challenging. Now they are. So how do we move forward? How do we make the next normal that we can focus on aging well no matter what the situation is. That really is the caveat, not the caveat, but the challenge, is no matter what the situation is. Society's brand promise over the last 20, 30 years has been, hey, you can live a longer, better life. Today, that's being eroded because of COVID-19, and also because many of us are, in many instances confined to our houses, our apartments, and not getting out the way we actually could or should. So what has happened? Well, we've had to pivot. Society has pivoted. And to pivot, we need to look at what can we do to actually stay well during these challenging times. So what we need to do is look at how we can live better, safer, longer. It's really that simple, isn't it? Well, sounds simple. A little bit more complex. There are a lot of different elements that come into this, especially with the latest research that just came out from the CDC that shows that COVID-19 can also be airborne. What's next? Well, what's next is, just trying to manage it all and not let it manage you. So all of this is going to create new rules moving forward, new industries, new programs, new products, new education, and new places. And, the most important thing is new thinking. So what is the next normal? As I mentioned, I believe the next normal is going to be a hyper focus on aging well, not just a general focus on aging well, because we want to keep our immune system as great as possible. We want to be able to be still socially engaged in some way, shape, or form. We want to keep our functional abilities high. We want to minimize any opportunity for depression to set in. By the way, according to the World Health Organization, 2020 was expected to be the year that depression would become the second leading cause of death and disability. Now you add COVID-19 to that, and you see people with all forms of addictions because they're depressed. So aging well can address all of these things. We just need to reimagine our brand promise. We just need to reimagine how we go about this. And I'm just going to give you 3 key strategies. Not a whole lot of stuff, just 3 key strategies to move forward. 1, create well environments in your home, in your community, to make sure that you have not only safe spaces, but well spaces. So as an example, this is a 2018 award winner. The world's best building was a retirement community. And one of the things that made this a unique property was if you look at all the green that is actually built into the actual building itself. And I believe as we move forward, we need to reimagine the buildings. We need to reimagine our natural environments. We need to reimagine how we set up our own apartments so that it's not, just cluttered. Some people, me, my wife is very clean. I happen to be a little bit messy, but with everything, a nice, clean, tranquil space that you can relax, meditate, or do different things that, if you can't get out, that is different than just simply sitting in front of a white wall. So look at your environments, think what you can do. How can you bring in an air filtration system to manage the air and things like that? So just analyze your current, sit down with the community directors and look at your current building, look at your current apartment, and figure out what you can do to just simply make it a little bit better than what it is. The air movement through your apartment. My mother's apartment is very stagnant and she gets very warm in the apartment. So, she has to bring in all these different elements to try and move the air. So simple things. Create a wellness map of your community. think about places that you can go. If you are still able to move and move around your community, where are places that you can go to do things and do them safely? Is it on top of a little bit of a rolling hill that you can go up there and that you can meditate, you can stretch, are you doing outdoor activities? Just simply sitting down with, the team at the community, other residents, and look at how to reimagine the spaces within the community to make them safe spaces. I'm sure they've already started on this process, but it's not just about safe spaces. It's about safe spaces that help you stay well. What are things that you can do in those spaces? So as an example, let's watch this video for a second. So different and so new was I any other until I looked at you and then
we all drive. Some just for the fun of it.
Basically, that whole video, it's not about selling your Ford. It's about showing the joy that someone has in what's called transcendent design, and that is creating experiences. So as you look at the community, how do you create joyful experiences in not just safe environments? So you want to create safe, joyful spaces that you can use to remain well. Why? Because you want to develop a wellness culture. And that wellness culture is what is permeating all throughout society right now. But what is wellness? I mean, the other day I saw a dog shampoo and it was basically saying, hey, bring your dog down for a wellness shampoo. I think we've gone a little bit too far there. But what wellness is, simply said, is that wellness is derived, I'll read this for you. Wellness is derived from our ability to understand, accept, and act upon our capacity. And that's a key word, what our capacity is to lead a purpose-filled and engaged life. In doing so, we can embrace our potential within all the areas of wellness to pursue and optimize life's possibilities. So let me see with a raise of hands, how many of you would like to pursue life's possibilities? Any of you? No? Oh, there you go. Oh, thank you, Justin. You win the prize. To do that, we have all these different elements that make us as individuals. So our physical capacity, by the age of 80, around 46% of us, 46% of us cannot lift 10 pounds. And we know from science that if you cannot lift 10 pounds, that is a precursor to, moving towards long-term care. The loss of strength, the inability to, function day to day. And that's why it's so crucial to build your physical strength, but also your social engagement, your spiritual engagement. I'm not talking about religion. I'm just speaking about being in the moment. If you're out for a walk, stop, take a moment, take the breath of fresh air. Going outside 5 to 10 minutes can change your mood significantly. If you're married and your husband or wife is in a bad mood, just, do like you did when you were younger, kick them out, tell them to come back in half an hour and they'll be in a lot better mood. My wife does that a lot with me. I don't know why, but anyway, emotional health. We were talking about depression. Most older adults, we see a U curve, and that most of us are happier as we get older because we have been there, done that, and we know that things that bother a lot of younger people will pass. But how do we manage our emotional health, our environmental health, where we are and what we're doing, our vocational health, learning new things, and very important, our cognitive health? How do we keep this engaged? That's the number one fear for most people as we begin to get older, is losing our cognitive abilities. So how do we keep that sharp? And to keep that sharp, it's the way we do most things, and that is be physically active, socially engaged, all the things that wellness offers. So that's why wellness is so important. And it's also important to understand that no two individuals experience aging at the same pace or in the same way. So, if two of you are doing the same thing and one is getting one kind of results and the other is getting another, don't worry about that. The reality is we all age in different ways because of our diversity. So what we need to do is we just simply need to find what works best for us. That's why today, most organizations are really beginning to focus on you, the individual, not an overall program. Yes, there's still a lot of overall programs, but focusing more and more on the person, because we're each individuals and we age in a very different way. Focusing on what is going to help you age well is the most important thing. And that's why wellness really comes together as we do all of this. But as we look at that, we want to remember 5 things. One, this is all the scientists out there now talking, the socio-emotional selectivity. And that is basically, a lot of times people want to talk about the next 10, 15 years. If you do this now, you'll manage your diabetes over 10 years. We don't know where things are going to be. So we're looking, here's where the short term is, focusing on what's in front of us. A lot of times we also hear that, you aren't able to do that because of this. Well, let's not accept that. Let's look and say, okay, how do we actually understand what has changed and then compensate for that? So if we can't run, walk. If you can't walk, have a swim. If you can't swim, ride. Find something that actually works for you within your capabilities and build up those capabilities, and remain positive. It's hard to remain positive right now with all that's happening in the news, but, staying positive has a massive impact on our health and well-being. And also, a lot of times we focus on keeping our independence, but we also want to have interdependence because we all rely on people, whether it's your next door neighbor, whether it's someone in the community, whether it's family, build that interdependence because we all need that emotional and physical support. And then, of course, if you're a chess player out there, you may be familiar with retrograde analysis, and that is thinking about things ahead of time and working backwards. So one of the things you may ask yourself is, how am I going to stay well over the next year? And by doing that, what are the steps that are needed to accomplish that, and work backwards? This is what I want to achieve, and this is how I'm actually going to get there. For the chess players out there, first move's for you. And then the last strategy really is, how do we embrace technology? Because today, technology is front and center with a lot of what we are doing. It's building connections. I took an hour to help my mother connect to Skype. And then since that, every single day, we've been having Skype conversations. But it's not just about that. It's about your community. Where does technology actually fit into the community? There are a lot of different technologies out there. But instead of focusing on all of them and trying to fit them into the settings, I would focus on one. And that is, how do you utilize little things like this watch that can monitor what you are doing so that you can keep a person-centered approach to your programs, to your health, and to your well-being. And, I would work with Justin on, figuring out how to set that up and how to emphasize it, because what I know from all the professionals that I have spoken with is that wearables are the future of healthcare. And what a wearable is just that. You're wearing a little sensor that tells the data, whether it's your heart rate, whether it is how far you've walked, all of these different things, so that you can monitor what you've actually done. And then lastly, uh, using some of the other technology to have fun, to get away. How many of you have virtual reality in your apartments or in your homes? Sitting down, just finding a tranquil space and putting the goggles on and go swimming with the sharks without getting bitten. That's the best part. Getting experiences. You can educate yourself as well, figuring out programming, all of that, all through the virtual environment. So the long and the short of this is that we have in front of us a challenge. And we have many tools, whether it's technology, whether it is creating the environment to help us age well, whether it is better understanding the science so that we understand what we can and what we maybe can't do. But we can live better longer, even in today's environment. And that really is, as we move forward, the next normal. The question becomes is, do we embrace that, or do we live in fear? And I'm not saying to deny where we are, because as I said earlier, I'm living it. My mother's community, by the way, had 70 people, as I mentioned, 24 passed away. And then they had about a 2-month break where they didn't have any positive COVID-19 cases. And then they now have 11. So it has been a roller coaster ride, but what has been key for her and my 108-year-old grandmother is one word: resilience. And to have resilience, all of what we talked about actually builds into that. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. As Justin mentioned, we had a few short minutes together, and I just wanted to point out 3 simple things that you can do to live a better quality life in today's environment.
All right, Colin, thank you. I appreciate it. I was thinking, you're talking about changing kind of our perceptions, and I remember, I think it was a movie made, but it was based on a true story of the gentleman who, prior to this, they said that you couldn't run a 4-minute mile or something like that, and then he beat it by 0.06 seconds or something like that, and then everyone did it. It takes that one person or one event to realize that, yes, we can do that, and so if it's just finding someone or finding something that, leads us to where we want to go and accomplish things. So that's kind of what I was thinking about while you were discussing those different topics and all those different strategies. So,
Well,
Justin,
to your point, and that is, over the last 3 decades, we have seen multiple people doing, amazing things. And what happens is, a lot of times, is people will point to those amazing things and they will say, well, that's them. I can't do that. Well, maybe you aren't going to climb Mount Everest. But what it shows you is that the general human species has that potential. The question is whether we work to regain some of our lost function, some of our strength, some of our cardio capacity, some of our mental ability, so that we can live a better quality life. Not all of us are going to run the marathon. Not all of us are going to break the 4-minute mile. Not all of us are going to jump out of a plane. But all that those examples show is that we can. Now the question is, how do we get to wherever we want to be? And that's the most important thing, is where do we want to be? But the science shows we can get there if we put in the effort.
Sure. All right. Do you have any questions? Is there any other for Colin? is thought of? Something?
I like it as term retrograde analysis.
You like the term retrograde analysis?
Where do you want to be and how do you get there?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think that's really the first time I heard that term.
Well, actually, if you think about retrograde analysis, you probably could put that towards any sport and any athlete. As an example, you could put it towards success in a business. You could put it towards anything, and that is, where do you want to be in your life? And what's the steps to actually get there? If you want to be CEO of a company, you're going to have to do X, Y, Z. If you want to, run a marathon, you're going to have to do X, Y, Z, and you work backwards to create your game plan to move forward.
Yeah, that's very, very, very cool. Zane, any other?
Yeah, many of us here are retired school teachers.
Yes.
And of course, that's a way that you get a job done.
There we go. All right. Good idea.
Yeah, if you have some idea of there are steps that are necessary to get that result.
Yeah, we do have a lot of school teachers, retired school teachers here, and that's the problem-solving type of analysis is pretty important. So.
Well, that is what resilience is, isn't it? It's adapting to the issues in front of us and solving the problems and moving forward.
Sure. If there isn't anything else for Colin, I want to again say thank you so much, Colin, for taking your time out of your day. I know you're very, very busy man, and you have so much knowledge to share with everyone, and I couldn't thank you enough. So let's go ahead and make sure we give him a nice Deerfield round of applause here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I wish you all the best. And, as I said, there's so much out there, just breaking it into simple steps that we can all achieve each and every day and then move to the next phase.
Perfect. All right, Colin, again, I thank you so much. Appreciate it, and wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll see each other in person soon. So
that sounds great. Thank you,
right,
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Nice seeing you, folks.